Well, hello, everybody, and most specifically, I should say hello to all our Flower Power cruisers. But of course, other people from Star Vista Live cruises are welcome to watch and enjoy this as well. I'm your cruise host, Jason Venner, and next to me here on the screen is one of our absolute legends. If our cruises had a spine, a heartbeat, and all the innards that make it run, it would be this man right here. This is George. George, how are you, sir?
Doing great, being safe. Hope everybody out there in Flower Power Cruiser Land are great. We're so looking forward to it, but such is life.
Such is life. And we'll dig into that in a second. The most pressing question I have for you, and the number one question I get from all of our guests, and I know the answer, but I'm going to let you discuss it. Everyone says, is it George Trullinger or George Trullinger? Please, sir, educate our
hard
guests.
G.
Hard G.
George Trullinger.
And I noticed that you don't correct the vast majority of people when they call you Trullinger. It's probably something you're somewhat used to at this point in time.
You know, what I say to people is, please call me George.
Yeah,
when I'm checking in at the airlines or whatever. So, well, Mr. Trullinger, call me George.
Yeah, I usually just say, please call me sir. We're fine. Well, George, for those of you that don't know you, how many of our cruises are you on, and what do you do for us? What do you do for Star Vista Live on the different charters?
My gosh. Well, we have the Malt Shop Memories cruise, which is the 50s and 60s. And I do Buddy Holly and my buddy Tim. Tim's up in Myrtle Beach. I wish he was here. Then it'd be a 3-ring circus.
I don't think Skype could handle all of that at once.
Oh, my gosh. But he does the Big Bopper, and I do Buddy Holly. And then we do a Blues Brothers show, which everybody likes. It's crazy, and we get to make jokes. It's a
classic. And before we go into the other cruises, I've got to say that one of the most common comments about you guys is, make sure you go and see the sound check, because the sound checks are arguably more entertaining than the shows. And that's no disrespect to the shows. What does it mean to you to hear that your sound checks are arguably as entertaining as your actual shows? And why do people say that?
We try to make it fun, and everybody knows that now a couple of times we played with the All-Star Band with Jeffrey Allen Ross and Bill Sinkay and Rob, all those great musicians that back up Peter Asher. That's their regular gig. But for the most part, as you know, you want everything when it's showtime, when it's go time, you want everything to sound great. So you have to tweak the sound a little bit. There's so many things going on, and maybe 6 or 7 different things on that stage going on. And that's what we like. You know what I want to say? And all the great cruises that we've been on, Flower Power and the 70s Rock and Romance, and of course the Malt Shop Memories, all of the tech people are the great, top notch, just the greatest. They're like the unsung heroes, and Tim and his crew do an awesome job. So we go in there, and rather than just check 1 1 2 2 2, we kind of tell jokes, and we talk to people, and I think what that does for us, it helps us get to know the guests, and it also sets things up. And sometimes we'll set a bit up, because people are, as you know, people are always walking through the venues and, on their way to dinner, or sometimes have to get up in the middle of the show and go do something else. It's a very fluid thing. So at the sound check, if we've got 25 or 30 people, we'll get a bit. Hey, listen, if a guy walks in, I'll ask him where he's from, and I'll say, hey, anybody else here from Cleveland, Ohio? And everybody goes nuts. And it just helps us develop a rapport with everyone, and it's a lot of fun.
And is that something you've always done, or is that something you developed just for the cruises, your sound check personality?
Usually, like my regular gig is doing Ed Sullivan for the Fab Four. So their sound checks are, no, I'm not kidding you, Jason, longer than the show, because they want every nuance and every musical effect. So I don't really get too much of a sound check. We're wearing a lavalier mic and, just doing a couple of bits. But I think the main thing that Tim and I try to do, and Tim's a lot better at it than me, and I really try to do it, is remember people's names and where they're from and all this stuff. And I think that really helps us develop a rapport with the audience. So once the show starts, hey, Roger, what are you doing there? Why don't you give us a,
Yeah.
there's a more of a connection. And we've been really gratified over the years that we've done the different cruises. One of our favorite times is pulling up to the port right when you check in. You go through security, and we're like, we walk through that lobby where everybody's waiting to get on the ship, and it's like really being a celebrity. For a make-believe celebrity, it's pretty fun.
Well, I guess we should also mention that to anyone who's watching who doesn't know you is I in my head, everybody knows George. Everybody knows you and Timmy. Everybody knows you guys. But there's people from other cruises watching who haven't seen you before. So we should make very clear that you are a tribute artist. Primarily what you do
absolutely.
is I mean, you're a phenomenal artist in your own right, but primarily what you do for us is you pay tribute to some of the artists that are long gone or that can no longer be on these cruises.
Right. And help with the theming. When you're on the 50s cruise, everybody, as you know, brings costumes and looks and tuxedos and poodle skirts, and then the flower power, all the tie-dyed stuff and the wigs, and some of the guests are really elaborate, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
And we just try to stay in theme with the whole cruise.
Now let's go back a few years, if you don't mind. Let's for people that know you or don't know you. Let's forget now who doesn't know you. Nobody on let's assume nobody knew you some few years ago when you were just starting out. How do you even come to be? How does George decide when he's little Georgie that he wants to be a singer and an entertainer? How do you even start down that path? Is it accidental? Is it intentional?
No, I think my dad taught me how to play guitar when I was very young, and he
How
thought
young?
it was very
How
important. About 11, 10.
Okay, so just a little guy.
And he had a guitar, and he used to play. My dad grew up in Panama, so he sang in Spanish. He used to sing and play in Spanish. And then I was very fortunate to grow up in an age, the 60s and 70s, where there was such a thing as a garage band. And on a Saturday afternoon, where I grew up in Southern California, you could drive around these different housing tracts and listen. And there would be in several different garages, bands practicing, young guys getting together. And that's how I did it. I had a band. We all wanted to be the Beatles. We all wanted to write our own songs, get discovered, and be the Beatles. And
how many guys in your group then? 4 of you?
4.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we couldn't drive. And my dad was an appliance repairman, and he had an old green 65 window van. On the back had a crank lift gate, and he'd drive us to these gigs. And sometimes, playing a frat party or something, dropping us off was okay. But man, he'd come to pick us up, there'd be beer bottles everywhere, and it was really a learning experience. We did the Battle of the Bands. We did the talent shows and all this stuff. And a couple of my friends went to Hollywood and opened up for national acts. A friend of mine, Mark Mason, is in a band called Ampage. And he went to Hollywood. And the first time I ever did Buddy Holly was to play a Halloween party. And the lady wanted everyone in the band to be in costume. So the drummer was Frankenstein and all this stuff. And I wanted to wear my glasses. So I was either going to go as Groucho Marx or Buddy Holly. The Buddy Holly story had just come out. And then the husband calls me up and says, my wife's name is Peggy Sue. Can you learn that song? And that's what started it for me.
That's cool. How old are you at that point?
About 17.
So this was just a couple of years ago. This was just what, 10 years ago?
A long time ago.
It's recent. Okay, it's recent.
No, way back. But
so a guy asked you to learn
the
Peggy Sue, and then you realized you loved to play tribute, or how does that progress?
Well, and then I was then the other half of that, I was a Jungle Cruise skipper at Disneyland. A lot of my teachers, all my favorite teachers, were worked part-time at the park, and it just was a thing that I always wanted to do. It was the closest thing to being a stand-up comedian. And you put a hat on, a safari outfit on. Hi, folks. Welcome aboard the
Yeah.
Leaky Tiki. My name is Less Capable. I'll be your skipper and guide for as far as we get. You know, all of that stuff. And that taught me the timing. I often say this, you know, doing that 8-minute trip 3 times an hour, about 24 times a day. I've done it hundreds, thousands of times.
Yeah.
It helps with timing. It helps with hecklers. And then, so I was like leading a double life. I was the all-American boy working at Disneyland. And then at night, this was the early 80s, Adam Ant and Boy George and all these things. And I had to have the short hair. I would paint one eye, put eye makeup on, and put on a pair of Angel Flight pants and then front this band. But I had to kind of keep the two separate. And
Yeah, you don't want to show up to Disney with one half of your face painted and your.
Oh my gosh!
I believe they frown on that type of thing.
Well, then they had a company party called the Banana Ball, and I asked if my band could play, and it was just this wild brawl, and it was great. But then I actually started out as a Beatle. I was working in a Beatle group. I was working the night John Lennon got killed, working unload at Disneyland. And I went home that night, Jason, and I looked in the mirror and I said, you know, up until now, music is something that you did as a hobby, just something on the weekends. So it's time to get serious. And that event, that was a pretty life-changing event for me. And from that point on, I didn't work at Disney. I didn't tell people I worked at Disneyland. I told people, what do you do? I'm an entertainer. And that just catapulted. So then I went to Lake Tahoe with a show called Liverpool, which had Buddy Holly, Elvis, and closed with the Beatles. And it was a lot of fun. I went to Lake Tahoe and did a tour of Canada, did a tour of British Columbia.
And you were Buddy Holly in it, or were you the Beatles?
I was. I played Paul McCartney in the Beatles. I didn't play left-handed, but I had a Hofner bass, and you know, I wore a wig, and it was pretty fun. One night, the guy that did Buddy Holly got food poisoning, and they came to me and they said, "What size jacket do you wear?" I said, "Oh, I'm 42." He said, "You're Buddy Holly tonight." I went.
So I guess was it difficult to get the food poisoning in his meal before, or?
That's like the old joke. Remember the old joke?
Yeah.
The lady said, I'm widowed 3 times. Really? What happened to your first husband? Said he died of poisoning. Said, really? Something. What about your second husband? Said he died of poisoning too. Said, wow, that's something else. Said, how about your third husband? Said, oh, he fell down a flight of stairs. Said, really? She said, yeah, wouldn't take the poison.
So safe to say you.
So I've had a great career. I've had a great career, and I thought, you know, like a lot of people thought, hey, we'll write songs, we'll get a hit, we'll make a hit record, and be like the Beatles, you know, be songwriters and all that stuff. And then I discovered I could imitate people in school. I started off with people who weren't famous at all, like my 5th period math teacher. Or something like that. But it was always Mr. McClintock.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, Mr. McClintock. Now, all right, people, coming in, sitting down quietly. And I like voices and did impersonations.
Sure. Who are your favorites to do?
I like doing John Wayne. And I used to do Ed Sullivan as an impression. I used to do Drunk Sullivan. I used to do Ed Sullivan drunk. You know,
and what does drunk Ed Sullivan do that regular Ed Sullivan doesn't?
And now, where's that damn mouse? Where is he? All right, and now on next week's show, where I can read it. You know, just get mad.
Get mad at everybody the whole time. Yeah. What about John Wayne? What does John Wayne sound like?
Well, Pilgrim, I guess we better get our horses and get on out of town. It's funny. I just put this story on Facebook. I was working in Las Vegas with a bunch of other impersonators. We had John Lennon, we had Hank Williams and Elvis, of course, and all these people. And we had a guy come, and he was in the show, and he did John Wayne, the eye patch, the 6-gun, the whole thing. And his gimmick was, of course, it was nonsense. His name really was John Wayne. but it was
Oh,
spelled
really?
different. He'd go, how are you, Pilgrim? John Wayne, Wain Wayne. How are you? So we kind of humored him, and he was a nice old guy, right? So one night we're sitting around in the dressing room, and I'm playing poker with Buddy Holly, John Lennon, Elvis, and Hank Williams, and we're talking about baseball. Hey, what do you think the Dodgers will do? I like the Cubs. Hey, what do you think about? And he comes ambling up. He was brand new in the show. He's trying to fit in. He comes
Yeah.
up. He said, boys, I used to play a little bit of minor league baseball in my day. And the guy doing Hank Williams said, what was your name then? Babe Ruth, Rooth? That was 30 years ago. We're still laughing about it.
He excuses himself immediately. Well,
Oh,
thank
my
you.
God.
Thank you.
Well, I better get on out of here. But I've had a
Well,
great. I always tell people I never started out to be an impersonator. That's just the way it worked out.
wait,
And
I noticed you use the word impersonator, and a lot of tribute artists prefer the term tribute artists to impersonator, and they
yeah,
say there's a big difference between the two. Thoughts?
you know, uh, it goes back to what I said before. I really consider myself an entertainer,
Yeah.
whatever it takes. If you got to dress up like somebody else. Uh, and I think tribute artists, it's like the difference between janitor and custodian, or,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
waste
Yeah.
engineer. It's the
Yeah.
same thing if you do it respectfully. And of course, I was looking forward to my guys, the Fab Four,
Hmm.
coming out there and performing on that big theater stage. And
Yeah.
those guys are incredible. And those are the guys I spend most of the year with. And the only
You
time I really get to play music is when I come out on the cruises.
So, what do you do the majority of your year? If you're not out with us on a charter, which obviously we snap up a few of your dates, there's obviously a lot of other weeks in the year. What does Georgie do when he's not cruising with Starvist Alive?
Well, I do a lot of my partner Tim Stamper. He and I have been together about five. We've known each other for about 25 years, but we've been working together for about the last five. And we used to do Legends in Concert in Myrtle Beach together
Hmm.
and have awful lot of fun. Tim lives 3 blocks from the beach, and Myrtle Beach. If you ever been up there, it's really
I
a
have.
lot of fun.
Beautiful.
And we enjoyed being in that show, the Legends show, and worked with a lot of great people and a lot of wonderful acts. And I always, believe me, I never once, while watching Tim and his partner or other teams of Blues Brothers, I never said, one of these days I'm going to be
Yeah.
Elwood. I really would like to do that. It was just out of necessity. His guy couldn't make it.
Food
And
poisoning? Yeah.
yeah, it was.
Yeah. Weird. Really weird. Fell down the stairs.
but uh, the show has to go on. And
Yeah.
Tim says, what are we going to do? I said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I was in Chicago, snowed in. I said, I'm going to go home. I came home. I moved all the furniture in my living room back, set up a little sound system. I watched the Blues Brothers movie, and then I practiced the steps. And then that was down in Fort Lauderdale. So on our drive back, Timmy and I were talking, and he said, that's the most fun I've ever had on stage with anybody. And he'd had a number of partners over the years. And I said, well, let's keep this going. Let's see what we can do. And then Alan called me.
Alan Rubens.
And we got Alan Rubin, and we got him to do the Big Bopper. I said, because one of those cruises, they were showing the Blues Brothers movie on that
Yeah.
in the Shipboard channel. And I
Yeah.
told Alan, because he just knew me as Buddy Holly. He didn't know I did other things.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm in a Blues Brothers team. Why don't next time, you're always looking to do something new or
Yeah.
want to plus it up a little. He said, well, what? Too bad your other guy doesn't do any other characters. I bring him on and just do the Blues Brothers. I said, no, he does the Big Bopper.
Yeah,
So
we
we
can
could do
do
the
it.
Big Bopper and Buddy Holly and all this. Now he's doing Joe Cocker.
Yeah.
Even in one show he did Roy Orbison. So Timmy's a great entertainer, as you know, has a lot of charisma, and he's very funny.
Yeah.
So
He's a good member of the community, for sure.
It's a great combination, a great
And
partnership.
quickly, for people watching that aren't sure, Alan Rubens is the senior vice president at Starvist Alive and the executive producer I believe 5 of Star Vista Live's cruises, and
Yeah.
specifically, he's executive producer of Flower Power and Malt Shot Memories and 70s Rock and Romance, all 3 of which you've done and or do. So when we say Alan, that's who we're talking about. Is that Alan?
Oh yeah.
Well, we allowed some guests to submit some questions online. So forgive me as I look down at my page here to see
Oh
who we
sure.
got. But a couple of questions that came in specifically for you, Judy Strandberg. Judy, if you're watching, thank you for
Hi
submitting.
Judy.
Hey, Judy. Judy says, please ask George what character is his personal favorite to perform?
My answer is whatever character I'm dressed and ready to go out on stage as in the moment. I don't really have a favorite. It's just
Okay, then I'm gonna rephrase it. I'm gonna cut you off and rephrase it. Hey George, it's Jason. I have to put a show on tonight. You haven't been on as anybody yet. You have a 60-minute set. What do you want to do?
I would do Buddy Holly, and then somewhere in the middle of the Buddy Holly act, while I have my guitar, I would go into a whole bunch of other stuff, which I've done. You know,
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, keeping it fresh and getting back to the Jungle
Yeah.
Cruise. That's how you keep it fresh, by doing it a little different each time, by doing it a little bit. And Tim and I have a saying. Tim and I will be getting ready, and he'll say, "Do you want to give these people? You want to give them the Blues Brothers, or do you want to entertain these people?" And that's really, and my answer is always the latter.
You know, obviously, you know Joel Mason very well. Many of our viewers know Joel Mason very well. I've had the pleasure of knowing Joel for almost 20 years now, and we kind of came up together in the business, did a lot of writing together, did a lot of performing together. And one of the things with Joel, and he and I talk about this all the time, some people are vehicles for the stars, meaning George you're talented, and maybe you're a vehicle to get Buddy Holly out there. And for some people, it's the other way around. And I think you are the other way around, just the way, and Tim, and I think Joel is the other way around. I think Kara Lee, who's another tribute artist for us, is the other way around. Some of you use the character as a vehicle to be yourself. Joel used to do a big Elton John thing, and he'd come out as Elton John, and he would go hard as Elton John until you were really into it, and then he would segue into a whole bit of Joel Mason in the middle, and then you fell in love with Joel Mason, and then he would segue back to Elton. You do that a lot, you and Timmy. To that exact comment that you just said from you and Timmy, do you want to go out and give them the Blues Brothers, or do you want to entertain these people? It's not to say the Blues Brothers aren't entertaining, as much as it's to say you have a gear in a level that's above and beyond that, right? I mean, it's you use that as a vehicle to go out and then be you and take it into the stratosphere.
I think what you're talking about is our ability to go sort of over the top.
Yeah.
The Blues Brothers plus, Buddy Holly plus.
Well, you're not just, right? It's not just, if you go out and for some reason your Buddy Holly, your glasses break, or the look of Buddy Holly breaks, you could still go an hour and entertain tremendously all these people, just as George and Timmy, or as whatever you're doing. You don't need the character per se. The character's nice to have, but you are more talented than the character that you're playing. Not that, you know what I'm saying? Not that individual, but that moment.
The character is the driving force that gets me on the stage.
Exactly.
And then once I'm on the stage, I feel like I can go in several different directions. Yeah. There's a clip on YouTube from a Flower Power cruise that we did a couple of years ago where I ripped my pants. There was a video guy performing. You can find it. George and Timmy, Flower Power, Blues
Nobody
Brothers.
wants to see you rip your pants. So.
Oh, but it was funny.
Nobody look that up, please. Nobody look it up.
Everybody look it up. Yeah. But you had one of the videographers there, and I was doing a thing with the guitar. Sometimes I'll take the hat off and everything and do things with the guitar. And I got down on my knees and was just going crazy for the guy with the camera. And I ripped out my pants. And we did 5 minutes.
Which area of your pants?
In the general area, the crotch area.
The manhood region, yes.
But I did not go a commando that night, so it all worked out.
Thank God. As my grandfather used to say, a dead bird doesn't fall from the nest. So
that's
we
right.
Were fine. Yeah.
That's right. But we like being mixing a little bit of ourselves. It's been my experience we used to do the show in Las Vegas, big flash, and it was a lot of fun. Marilyn Monroe, we'd get a guy out of the audience, and Elvis would hand out the scarves and everything. But each performer that was really good was secure enough in their own ability as being an entertainer to put themselves in it and go over the top. And then the comment would be, "Wow, you were just like them." We were nothing like them.
You were nothing like them, yeah.
But we were entertaining. It was a lot of fun.
Now, we only have a few minutes left here, but I want to dig into something. You've got quite the beard going there, George. I'm not used to seeing you with a beard. I'm impressed. I like it. From one bearded guy to the next. What's going on there?
I got a little mouse on my shoulder.
You got a mouse up over here on your shoulder? What?
Little Topo Gigio.
I'm also noticing you have handcuffs back there next to that mouse.
Those are my Blues Brothers handcuffs.
Sure they are, George.
They are.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And next to that, you've got your flower power bag. You've got a lot of things happening back there.
I've got.
I can't see that quite. Bring that in.
I've got my magic set.
Oh, the magic set.
Be adding the
little sleight of hand
to my next show.
Show you how to get in and out of handcuffs. I'm sure that's what's going on back there. I see a malt shop hat over your other shoulder.
Oh yeah.
There, on the other side.
Yeah. And of course, I'm never far from a guitar.
Oh, do you name your guitars? Do you name her?
No.
No. Just your babies.
Hey, and I've always, in show business, you always have to have something to fall back on, and this is what I'm working on. They call it a manualist, but it's really hand farting.
Oh.
How about that, huh?
I'm going to do this for all the people watching because I'm sure they're doing it sitting at home in their rooms, wondering why the hell they tuned into this channel with you and I at this exact moment.
That's right.
But hey,
this is the kind of entertainment.
This is what we bring here at Starfist Alive.
That's right.
I think for anybody watching this on YouTube, feel free to rewind just a little bit and watch George's face as he made those noises, because that might be better than what was actually coming out of your hands at that moment.
I usually do that in an elevator, and it's a lot of fun.
Yes, a lot of fun for who exactly?
And I'm working on new bits for the act. The whole coronavirus situation is new from K-Tel Records. My Corona, all the hits of the coronavirus. You'll get hits like "Help," all by myself. Somebody get me a doctor. I'm working on that too.
Well,
with the cheesy voice,
Yeah, you've got to do it. Do you remember the sounds of the coronavirus? So do we. Tune in for this 8 CD. Starvist Alive, Time Life is the perfect place to release this.
Yeah. Just send 2 rolls of toilet paper to George Trullinger, DeLand, Florida.
Listen, I know we're making light of a serious situation here, but let's talk about this for just a moment, because it is something that obviously everyone, the reason we're doing these from our homes and our separate areas and whatnot is the fact that we're not on the cruise. The fact that we're not on the cruise, or the reason we're not on the cruise, is because cruising has been suspended into May. I believe May 12th right now. All cruise ships are suspended until, and that's a fluid moment, so that this may not age well. In 2 weeks they may come back, or who knows, they may stay out longer. Obviously it's a pandemic. Obviously it's serious. Obviously everyone is trying to do their part, or at least most people are being told to do their part, and a lot of people are listening. Some aren't, with social distancing and doing whatnot. What's your take on what's going on, and how do you feel about the current climate and the situation?
I think that it is obviously tragic, and it is obviously an eye-opening thing. And it really shows when your freedom is curtailed or handcuffed, how much liberty we have, all the simple things. And I think ultimately it's going to make us appreciate going someplace crowded. Like, I'll never complain about a crowd at Walt Disney World again. I'll never complain, about anything. Going to a baseball game, all the simple things are gone, or suspended temporarily. We hope. but it's affected more than just our cruise. I know a lot of people were hurt. My friends Paul and
Sure.
Kathy Bodie, they're
Paul and
big
Kathy.
Green Bay. Wait, they're big Green Bay Packer fans. I gotta do this.
Oh, just for Paul and Kathy.
Paul and Kathy Bodie and all our friends that follow the Green Bay Packers.
Did you get that from your time working at Disney?
No, I got this at the Green Bay airport. It only cost me $22.
Yeah,
but anyway,
a good cheesehead.
That's a lot of. But I got a fake mouse and I got a fake cheese. That's great.
It's good. You're all set.
When did I turn into Carrot Top? This is prop comedy.
You got a lot of props. Yeah, you got a lot of props here, George.
But no, it is a serious situation. We will get through it. This too shall pass. And I know that there's a tendency for all of our friends on the cruises to who are really, really extremely disappointed, and we are too. But we have to look at the big picture. We have to be mindful. I live right across the street, about 500 feet this way is my mom. A lot of people know my mom on the Malt Shop cruise. She's a bigger celebrity than I am. But my dad's 91 and mom is almost 80. So these are the people. You got to do it for the greater good.
Yeah.
It's no fun being locked up in the house or social distancing or whatever, but you have to do it so that we all get through to the other side. And then it would probably be a great thing to remember if people wash their hands more and maybe didn't, get so close for things like the regular flu or just a cold or something. Yeah. But we're going to learn a lot of lessons from this. And I want to tell you something else, son.
Please.
It is my feeling after great tragedy comes great resurgence. Mm-hmm. Not just a handful of weeks after JFK was killed in Dallas, the Beatles burst on the scene and sort of woke everybody up out of this numbness. We're going to be numb for a little while. We're going to be a little gun shy. World War II, horrible. Had to happen. Everybody had a brother, sister, father that was over in that war, the war effort, gas rationing, the Depression. A lot of great things came out of that. So I'm looking forward with positivity and looking forward to the good things that will come out of this rather bad experience or rather unprecedented experience,
I couldn't agree more. I think, I'm on the West Coast. I'm out in Oregon, and we're not reacting. We're reacting. I shouldn't say we're not reacting. We're absolutely reacting, but we don't have the number of cases that they do down in California, nor do we have the number of cases that they do in the Northeast, up in the New York area for a lot of our folks watching up in there, nor do we have the sheer number of people 70 and older that you do down in Florida. Yep. So we also, Oregon, and I mean this not as a joke, but in seriousness, Oregon is known for kind of social distancing in general. We do a lot of outdoor events and activities, lots of hiking, lots of running, lots of things that involve, you go out, you do stuff here. You're very much out. So in a lot of ways, what we do, what my wife and I do in the summer, it hasn't really slowed our summer down because we're not in big groups doing big things. So I'm very aware of it. Obviously, we all are, and we see it. But at the same time, what I also see is I see people doing their best. I see a lot of people respectfully keeping their, and this is again, Oregon. I'm not speaking for every state, every community. I'm sure everyone's doing their best. Some of you are frustrated with other people. I get that. But here I see people politely waving from 8 feet away and moving on your business. I see people going for their run and running on opposite sides of the path and, taking a detour. And, I see life kind of continuing. And what I feel more than anything as I watch and as I hear and as I listen to my friends, and Peter Noon called me a little earlier actually, and we chatted, as I talked to Peter Asher about this as well. Matter of fact, not to horrendously name drop two Peters.
Two great guys, by the way.
Two phenomenal
unbelievable guys,
unbelievable entertainers as well. Everyone kind of has the mindset of, we can't wait to get back on stage. We can't wait to get back and entertain our friends. We can't wait to get back and do our thing. We got a puppy? Is there a puppy?
Yeah, I do. Honey.
It's all right. Things to say. What's your dog's name?
She's a good pup.
What's her name?
She's never seen so much of me.
I'm
I've
sure
been home.
she's probably seen enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
When's Dad going back out?
I know the cats have.
Yeah.
The cats are giving me that look like, are you still here?
Yeah. Isn't there
Yeah.
a concert somewhere? But what I was saying is, as I see everyone doing their best, and as I talk to some of my friends and you and Mr. Noon and Mr. Asher and all these other fantastic folks, everyone's really anxious to get back to it. I hear a lot of excitement about next year's cruising. I hear a lot of excitement about future charters, and I know there's still some uncertainty as to what cruise lines will be, but I'm going to ask you the same thing I'll ask all of them. Can I count on you to come back on next year's charter? Are you prepared to be back on the
Absolutely.
2021 cruises and entertain?
One of the greatest experiences of my life was taking these cruises, be entertaining on these cruises. It's really something else. My first cruise on Malt Shop was right in the middle of Hurricane Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
And you've heard about that, and everybody was unglued, and it was unbelievable. And ever since then, I have really looked forward to spending time with our guests and the fabulous Star Vista crew that you have. All of those wonderful people. If I don't want to name them because I'll leave somebody out, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But all the guys and gals in the red shirts that we've come to know and love over the years. And it really, truly is a family. A lot of these people go on multiple cruises. You see them on Malt Shop. You see them on Flower Power. Tim and I were kicking around trying to get a country act. I do Hank Williams Sr., a lot of great songs and everything, but we're trying to get him, in a pair of overalls and sing and play a banjo.
Can he? Yeah, that's fitting. I mean, we just lost a great man. We just lost the gambler, Kenny Rogers.
Oh yeah.
Opportunity there to pick up a tribute.
Absolutely. And Timmy looks great in that white beard. He really does.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure. This is my quarantine beard, by the way. This is my social distancing beard.
It could be you.
Yeah. I'm ready. I'm not white enough yet, but I'm on my way. I'm trending.
We put a pair of sunglasses and a cowboy hat on you, and you're Hank Williams Jr.
I'm Hank Jr. Yeah. I'll just come out and walk around the stage while you're performing.
Be great. Drink a bottle of Jack and get in fist fights.
Yeah, I mean,
if there's time, play a song.
Isn't it that easy? Well, George, I know you have.
It is my firm belief, by the grace of God, and we pray every day for the healing of the world, the healing of our nation. We pray to give wisdom to our leaders, and I think, having traveled, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's something very unique about Americans, and Americans are strong and resilient. And this is throwing everybody for a loop. And so millions and millions of people are out of work overnight.
3.3 million to the unemployment line.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But we will come back, and I think it's going to come back like a rocket. It's going to come back, and I think people are going to want to go to the movies. Yeah. I haven't been to the movies very much, like a movie theater.
But you want to go now.
I want to go now. And like I said, I want to go to an NFL game. I want to go to a hockey game.
Yeah.
And I think it would be good for a little while to help out all these local businesses that are taking such a hit. Have a staycation. We'll stay right here. We'll go get a hotel room, or we'll go to Disney, but it's coming back. And we know that all the disappointed folks that we're looking so forward to this year's cruise, because it is so special. I want to give a special shout out to Hal and Lynn Bruce, who had me and Timmy up a few months back. We did a Woodstock show together up in Nova Scotia. And if you ever get invited to Hal's home, oh my gosh, it is unbelievable. It is
they invited Brittany and I up, and we were actually talking about making the trip, but then things happened, obviously.
Right. If you ever get a chance to go, it is just so homey and so beautiful. And we just had the greatest time performing with Hal. It's a special guy right there. And
very much so.
A lot of my friends, Neil Diamond and a lot of people are doing these things. I'm going to be doing one. I think on Facebook Live, just me and a guitar talking. Maybe, have my cheese hat. It'll be a great thing. But we'll pull through this. No, like I always say, no worries, mate. We're going to get through this, and we'll be stronger, and we'll be better for it. That's just the way it is.
You are a beacon of love and positivity, and that's why I appreciate you, and I appreciate you taking the time to let our guests behind the curtain a little bit to get to know you. Hard G, Georgie Trullinger. Just joking. George, you're the best. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time. Any parting words for all your fans and all the wonderful Star Vista Live cruisers out there?
Just keep the faith. Just be positive. Share love. Turn the news off. Put on some rock and roll music. That's what I do to sort of get away. You don't want it to be like Charlton Heston in Omega Man, watching, in an empty theater, watching the Woodstock movie and longing for the old days. Yeah. The best is yet to come. We're going to be back strong. We're going to be back positive, and just do your best. Love one another. Love yourself. Take time for yourself. Just breathe. Turn all the nonsense off. We'll get through this. And we'll see you. Hopefully, I'll see all my friends on Malt Shop. My mom's already asking about Malt Shop. How many months away is that?
Well, that's the good news, is we're going to turn this. We'll hopefully turn this thing around sooner rather than later. And Malt Shop is slated to go in November, and then the rest of the cruises from there. Obviously, for all of our Flower Power guests, we're still working on what we're going to do with the 2020 suspended cruise. But right now, the 2021 is out there and still viable, and so is all of our 2021 programming. Oh, yeah. So we're staying the course as well, and we're excited for it. And I couldn't agree more that I think as my grandfather always said to me, he said, adversity reveals character. And I think that's true in individual. I also think that's true in communities. I think it's true in general. The more adversity you see, you start to see some character revealed. And
I don't know. We may have spoke about this before, Jason, but my grandmother was an entertainer in vaudeville, and she worked with Will Rogers, and she worked with a very young Boris Karloff, and she worked during the Depression years. And she's passed. She lived just a little bit down the road in this little town, DeLand, Florida. And I remember one of the things, she was so proud of me being in show business, and one of the things that she said to me was, always remember, when times are tough, that's when people need entertainment the most. And I've heard her voice in my head several times during this, when things seem rough or things seem so difficult.
Yeah.
People need entertainment, sports. They need, I was heartbroken. The Olympics, which I love watching, it's affected everything. But we're going to come back strong. And we're going to play a lot of music, and one day we will look back. It's one of our moments, It
is. It really is.
We'll remember this the rest of our lives. So how we deal with it and come through it really is important.
George Trullinger, you are amazing, my friend. I'm going to let you go back to painting your house and playing your guitars and writing music for the Roaring Twenties that are the new Roaring Twenties that we've created here. And I'm looking forward to your box set, the Corona tunes coming out soon. I'm sure that's the lead. I'm sure that's the lead song. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you, Jason. Hey, anything you need, we look forward to being with our Star Vista friends very, very soon. Anytime you need me and Timmy, you just say the word. We're there.
You're the best. We love you, buddy.
Love you too. Bye, everybody.
Later, George.